Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Conversations with a Mexican number four. This is my friend Andreas Svensson. Good morning, buddy. Sorry.
How are you?
How are
How
you?
are
How are
you?
you doing? How are you? I'm good, man. How are you doing today? And this is my friend from Sweden. I actually have never met him in person. He's a good friend now for like good 4 years, I would say. But we have never talked in person. Can we tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. We have known each other for, like you said, 4 years and never met.
Crazy.
And that feels kind of strange, no?
Especially
Like
because we're good
a
friends,
really
you
good
know?
friend that you never met.
Yeah,
We have
exactly.
a great relationship, right? So I am 29 years old, from Gothenburg, Sweden, and living with my wife Leslie and our kid Leo of 6 months. And we've been, or Julio and I, or Julio have been teaching me Spanish for a long time, and um, it's been great. It's been really great. I have learned a lot during these years.
Thank you.
Um, so we we started we got to know each other from a friend of mine, Patrick, who connected
Yes.
us 4 years ago.
For those who don't know Patrick, of course, pretty much everyone. I'll bring him to the podcast at some point. He's our beautiful friend, which we both hate for being gorgeous. A great guy, and but yeah, definitely we met through Patrick, and yeah, and right before the podcast started, we were talking about how I'm getting to know the podcast itself, right? So if you don't mind, let's continue on that conversation. Basically, what I'm doing, dude, is I don't know what the podcast is about yet, right? But I'm involved like in three different processes at the moment. Um, uh, and I'm learning the more projects I start at the beginning of the projects. And I mean, you're in your own beginning of your own company right now as well. It's just that the first 6 months is just to fuck it up, and the easiest or the fastest you understand that, I think it's easier to grow the business. You know, when I started putting businesses when I was like 17 or whatever, and everything failed, and I was like, I'm a failure. But then the older you get, you're like, oh, it's part of it. I have to.
Yeah, it was good failures. Otherwise,
Yeah,
you wouldn't know what you need to do in order to succeed
I have the feeling that
or
this
to
podcast
move
particularly is like a
forward.
shit. Right? Come again?
Yeah, or to move forward. Like you need to fail, maybe
No,
hard, in
hundred
order
percent.
to to be able to move forward.
Yeah, there's no way you
And
can start and do great. You know.
yeah, yeah, and you have a lot of projects as well. Like you, that's what I like about it. You have always like something going on, some way in um, trying out new things within your company or companies.
Thank
And
you. Yeah, and
it's
and
always
what's funny is
it's
they
fun
all
to
say it, right?
follow your projects.
Thank you. Yeah, we've known each other so much. We've seen each other fail and start and do stuff. I know you since before Leslie and the baby, dude. And now you're
Yeah, yeah,
married
yeah.
with a baby. It's insane. No, no, but what I was trying to say a second ago is like, I know the podcast right now is shit. So I know everybody that is listening to this, especially because of my guests, right? Like I'm doing great, but the people that I bring in is just horrible. I'm just kidding. You just looked at
Yeah,
me. You just
pleasure
looked at
being
me
here.
like, what is this? I'm like, I thought we joke. Um, um, no, but I still don't know how to interview. I don't even know what to talk about, right? I know the idea is good. I know I want to get something out of it. Um, uh, so in parts of the conversations, I'm like, I like what happened there. I like what happened there, but I'm still discovering what's going on here, right? And if this helps anybody out there, this is a shout out to people like trying to start something. I follow people like Hormozy. You know Hormozy?
No, I don't know.
This big guy that is very muscly with a thing in his nose like this all the time, and he's a business guy, and he's always giving advice. And me and a friend always make jokes about him being God because he makes the best freaking advice. And one of the things he says is like, we made like 1,000 episodes before we became anything in my podcast. You know what I mean? And this guy's a huge businessman, and he's like, we just were shit for pretty much 3 years, you know,
Yeah,
and then suddenly we're top 10. And I was like, all right, good.
but
So it's,
yeah.
So this is the shout
It's
out, right? The shout out is like I'm having that thought before it ever happens. Anything. I'm not saying I'm gonna become Hermosi, but it's like at least I'm gonna get 1,000 followers or something. I hope, you know.
that's the fun part. You always learn something from, I guess, in this situation, every episode,
Right,
like
right.
editing, interview techniques, and stuff like that. And it's kind of weird as well. Like on the other side, to be a guest at a podcast. Uh,
Interesting. Tell me
is
about it.
what?
Tell me about it. Tell me what you mean there.
No, I never been guest at like for a podcast or a TV show or anything like that. So it's kind of weird getting being interviewed.
Interesting. What is
You know,
what is do you have any specific experience you're going through right now that you're like, oh shit, it's weird or no, I don't like it, or do you know what I mean?
I just feel like okay, let's wing it. Let's see what comes out.
I love it for some reason. You know, I've been invited for like to like four podcasts or something like that. Not mine, but that I've been interviewed at. But you know me, I'm egocentric as fuck, right? So I love it when I go to a podcast and they're like, "What do you think about this and that?" I'm like, "Oh, you're giving me like open freaking floor."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Stage
go
is yours.
crazy. The stage is mine. Yeah. So what is bad feeling, not in a podcast, but of beginning for you and your company? Like I've seen you grow and develop. I love where this is going because this is the first conversation we doesn't start going to language immediately, which I love language and this is what the podcast is about. But with you, we often talk business and how do we grow, right? It's going there naturally as it always happens. So
Yeah.
what is your experience? What are you learning through the business that you're having? If you also want to talk about it for a minute, but what is your experience as
Mm.
an entrepreneur?
That it's hard, scary, and fun as F. It's like I've been working in one company for a long time before I started doing. I run together with two old colleagues of mine who are my current colleagues as well, of course. But we started a property management firm, and before that, me and a buddy of mine, we started painting project management uh, um, firm, and it's it's fun because like the difference between working for a company or running the company is that you have no one above you to blame
Right,
or
right,
to seek for like how do we do this. You need to do it yourself, right?
right,
And you need to trust yourself that this is the right decision, because you can't blame it on anyone, or not blame it, but like, oh, I was told this.
right.
Is I told myself this, or my God, like so it's scary, hard but fun, uh, and you
And
learn a lot every day.
yeah, yeah. Adding a
That's
bit
my
to what you say before I ask you about the next, but it's like adding a bit to what you said about you cannot blame it on anyone. Also, you're responsible for everything in the sense that in a job, it's kind of like, oh, there's no sales or there's no money. You're kind of like, I'm gonna get my paycheck anyway. You know,
Yeah,
like you kind of know everything is fine. And as much as you might hate your boss, you might hate your job, or you might hate everything, you're kind of like, yeah, but when Friday comes and I get money, and then I'm gonna chill for the rest of the weekend, and then I can come and hate everyone.
exactly.
You know, this is like number one. If there's no money, you gotta make money. Like it's not your employees, it's you. You are the one. If you gotta sell a kidney to pay your wages, and it's your shit. And
Yeah,
two is not like you finish on Friday and you're done. I'm sure you have the same experience. Like you finish on Friday and
absolutely.
you're on your head till Sunday night again. You
Yeah,
know?
you get a text that like you can't wait till one day. You need to do it, right?
But it's a
So
more positive experience than you think. Like as much as you work more, you're more committed. You're more worried. I live worried. I have not been worried in years, but it's like way nice, of way nicer being worried, don't you think?
Yeah, it's like it's energizing, or it gives you, even though it's stressful, it gives you energy because you need to do something. You cannot
Mm,
like of course we have a lot of days that is chill, watching TV or whatever, hanging out with friends, but it's still, you have too many of those, then the business is gonna suffer.
right, right. You gotta be your
You need to
own
be a
like
you need
protocol.
to Yeah, you need to be a doer, even though you may not have been a doer earlier, right? So you need to. So it's a great experience.
Now, this is something that I've seen from outside. I wonder how it is from inside, because do you feel there's a difference, like it had an impact in your personality, like in your overall vibe as a person, as a man, you know what I mean? Like, I've known you since before you were an entrepreneur, and you made that decision, and through the process of like I'm thinking about it, and then like suddenly I have it, right? And do you what do you feel the impact has been on you as a man, as a person?
Mm, yeah, I feel a lot more responsible for things, like in a good way.
Mm,
There is many more responsibilities to keep up with, and fix, or keeping in, how do you say that, like have under control.
right.
So, and that is also like good, um, a good positive feeling,
Mm,
like exactly the same, not exactly the same, but the same feeling, or the same thing as sorry, don't say that. The same thing as the responsibilities you have for the business that you feel inside, like, yeah. Yeah, so it grown a lot, owning a business, because there's so many things you need to face, or handle, or
mm.
um, educate yourself on, or stuff like that. So you have a lot of responsibilities to take care of. You have yourself, your family, your friends, and you have your business, your clients, and and you're in a whole different position than before. So
And
it teaches you a lot.
for me, what I've seen in you and in me and people that I know, but specifically in you, because I love the change, and I told you about that change at some point, is when I met you, you were a bit, not a bit, I would say significantly shyer almost. You know what I mean? Like more kind of like, ah, I wish I could do this, and I wonder if it's like that, what's first, chicken or egg kind of thing, right? Like you kind of want to do things, but I'm not sure if you felt like you couldn't do it or what, but you were kind of just, it was just an idea. And then at some point I saw you change, right? Kind of like, no, I'm fucking going for this, right? And this is what I'm gonna do. And suddenly you became this person that were like, I agree with this, I don't agree with that, this is what I want to do. I mean, you always had your very strong opinions, but more like, this is what I'm gonna do, that's why I'm gonna do it. um, and you say you seem very confident to do it, you know. And even when you fail, you were like, "Yeah, that shit's not working, but I'm fucking doing it anyway." So there was a bit of a strength that became part of your person, and but it wasn't after the business. It was actually kind of like during making it or even before, right? So it's kind of like that chicken and egg. It's not that you became stronger because of the business. It's rather maybe you have the business because you're stronger, kind of thing.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah,
you
absolutely.
know what I'm saying? Or and it's kind of like a thing that feeds on itself, right? Like you start thinking, I want to be a better person. You start working on that. You get results. You believe in that. You think more about it. Were there any like specific factors or things in your life that started pushing that process, you think?
Mm, no, not particularly like. Or you mean for to start a business or me personally?
Whichever
Like,
you feel. I think it's a very together process, like
I've always
it's
been like a very, oh, like you said, I was very shy years ago, and but I always liked like personal development things and
mhm,
books and psychology to a degree, and so I think that is also part like what can I do next to improve myself even just a little bit. um, and it's hard to do that or like to identify that in yourself that is you need to improve things
mhm,
because you suck at this or you are not as good as you could be in this, and you need to work on that, even whatever it is,
yeah.
relationships or work or uh, discipline or whatever it is. So and I always like that, the development,
Mhm.
personal development, and that pushed maybe to do my own thing or reach in that direction.
You know what? You touched on a very interesting point. Touch on personal development. I've heard so much hate. I don't know if it has been your experience on personal development, like whatever way, right? Like some people don't like the books or the coaching or whatever. And in my experience, whatever level you do, whether you do psychotherapy or whether you do coaching or whether you just read books or you like Tony Robbins or however you do it, I have found it to have changed my life. And people think like, oh, you think you're gonna get rich? Like I don't think I'm gonna get rich, but I want to be in a better place. And I do feel in a better place that I was 10 years ago. Like in a not just better, like it's a whole different fucking planet for me after I started
Yeah.
working in myself. Uh, and I don't understand the way people just hate on it. Do you have any opinion on this?
May no, not directly. I just think that it's not a, at least uh, in my experience, it's not something you really talk about with friends and family. Personal development in that because maybe because of that, because people hate on it. But uh, I think maybe people are scared of it, so it's just like, oh no, it's nothing. I don't want to.
Right.
Yeah, you do that, whatever makes you happy, whatever, and they know they need they would need some guidance because they're the same people they were 15 years ago as well, and
Exactly.
maybe in a good
Exactly.
way, probably in a good way, but I think that there's always something you can work on, even though it doesn't affect other people in your life, but you may feel a lot better.
It's a lot like going to the gym. When you think like you can always be in better shape, you can always eat better, you can always work out, and having somebody to help you, even if it is books, is just like having a spotter, being like, give me 5 more reps. You know what I mean? Or this is how you work out better. This is how you eat better. That's the way I see mental health a little bit. It's like you got to work on it. You got to go to the gym.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always about perspectives. Like, even if it could be, you could read a book or watch a YouTube documentary or a documentary in self-improvement or whatever discipline, and 99% is shit, but 1% of it changed a little bit what you how you can think. It doesn't matter. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to think that way, but you have a different perspective
Exactly.
concepts. So yeah, it's always good. I
I'm
like it.
sure. I'm sure you've heard the allegory of the cave, Plato.
No,
The guys that are chained in front of a wall. Have you heard it at all?
no.
So it kind of talks about what you're saying right now a little bit. I think it's very short. Like so, it's basically it's a story about some dudes that are. I'm probably gonna butcher it every if there's people listening to this. I'm sorry, but I mean it's gonna give you enough of an idea, right? Um, it's three dudes that are locked in a cave forever. That's the only place they have ever lived, and they are chained, so they cannot look at the outside of the cave. They can only look at the wall, and the wall is blank. There's nothing in it, right? So let me just mute this. I'm sorry, everyone, but and behind them there's fire, so there's light in the cave, so they can only see the back of the cave, and they can only see the shadows that go in front of the fire, right? So all they see that they think that's reality, and they're like, oh, reality is just some shapes, and that's all that exists. One day, one gets free, and he runs away, and he looks at the life, and it's like the sun. He gets like, oh shit, like he gets blinded by the sun, and but suddenly he looks at reality the way it is, right? He looks at trees and people, and he's like, oh, okay, that's not what I thought. He comes back to the cave and is like, hey guys, reality is not that. Reality is more like there's colors and there's people, and they're like, you're freaking insane. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that people doing development has the truth. What I'm saying is there's a different perspective always. There's always things
Yeah.
you have not seen, right? And it's like when somebody comes and is like, dude, you can do development. You don't have to do it exactly, but there's something there. And if people goes like spirituality, I personally don't. I'm not very spiritual or at all, but I want to hear what you got to say first, and then I can say no to that. You know what I mean? But every perspective, every way of life has a different coming out of the cave feeling. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. I totally agree. Totally agree.
Cool. I'm gonna pull you now. Oh, sorry.
Oh no. Continue, please.
I'm gonna pull you now into what the podcast is really about, right? And which is
Yeah.
language. Really quickly, number one, I can hear here between us, for example, right? Like I'm a Mexican, you're Swedish, and thanks to a language we learned earlier in life, we have a friendship, and we're now having a podcast that can be understood by more people, right? So I think there's a huge impact in learning a second language. In your case, you're doing a third language, which is amazing. And um, what is your overall thought about this? That you can, I guess I'm asking you to give me a direction on the conversation, right? Like, what is your experience? Do you think it's important? What do you like about it? What have you learned from
With
it, etc.?
languages. Well, I love traveling, and languages really opens up other cultures. Like you you experience traveling, you experience other people in a whole different
Mm,
way if you speak the language. Um, or even if you just get around in the language, like you don't have
yeah,
to fully be fluent in English or Spanish or whatever, but as long as you start understanding, you when you're at the restaurant and you hear people talking and everything, it's a whole different experience,
yeah,
right? And I think it's
100%,
super
yeah,
cool.
100%.
So,
Um, what is your take on it? Something I like, and one of the reasons why I actually started the podcast is as a teacher, I get to experience many different profiles of learners, right? People that go full on, people that do a little by little, people that have to do it, so on. There's a million type of people, and one of the reasons why I open the podcast is to show people out there that is like you can be of any kind of people and learn. So what's your take on it? How do you learn it? How much intensity? How much do you suffer per se? What is easy, what is hard in the learning process of a language?
So I'm a lazy learner when it comes to That's why we had classes for 4 years. It's not because you're a bad teacher, because I'm a lazy student.
I would say you're not in a rush because you're actually not lazy, but you're definitely not in a rush.
Oh no. Well, but when we started out, um, yeah, you really realize quite quick that he's not gonna do his homework. Um, and most of the time I did it.
Good,
Um,
yeah.
but in the beginning, I struggled a lot with words and with learning the basics in Spanish. It was um, many times it was I don't want to say stressful, but when when you had in school, it felt like a surprise test. You fuck, I haven't listened to this class, and what fuck, what is this? What okay, it's this, and that stress. It's 15 minutes, and it's 45 minutes left of this stress, to try to show that you learned something in the past week.
That's awesome.
When in fact you just Google some the top 10 most funny videos, and
Right.
you should have done your Spanish. But since you're a great teacher, I can't stress that enough,
Thank you.
because
Thank
you
you so
really
much.
are. It never felt like, even though it felt stressful, and you got an- anxiety, um, it was all because I knew I hadn't done the work for that class. Um, but uh, but what I wanted to say is that it never felt like going to a class or a school. When I don't want to go to school today. I don't want to go to this class. It sucks. And it has always been fun to take Spanish classes with Language Athlete and
Thank you.
Julio.
That sounds like a
Um,
commercial. Thank you so
so
much. I'm gonna post that.
absolutely, absolutely. No, but it's true, because it has always been fun, and it has not been this conventional, like um, um, struggling with oh, Joan has 10 tomatoes. That's mathematics, but you know um, this boring stories that you need to learn in English class, like, I don't have an example, but I'm sure everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they
It
go to
has
Wall
been
Street. They
fun.
go to Wall Street Tower and they have a meeting, and you're like, What the fuck?"
Exactly, and this has been so much fun.
That's awesome.
And um, and I've been through different stages of, like, why I wanted to learn Spanish as well. Because first
Oh, great.
it was really, uh, I wanted to learn because I wanted to travel more, but it was in Latin America, and that part of the world. Um, but I hadn't anything planned for a long time, so it was just okay. I learned for when I need it, and then a year later, I think it was, we me and Patrick, our friend, we went with his girlfriend to Costa Rica, where she's from, and a few weeks before that, I was like, okay, Julio, I really need to learn learn Spanish now.
remember that. Yeah.
And a year, wasn't it? I guess. Um, I went 3 months to South America
On your
to
own. Yeah.
travel, and some months before that, it was the same. But, okay, now I really need to speed things up, and uh, and then it's back to okay, no, everyday normal Spanish classes, and also I'm married to Dominican,
Yeah, it
which
helps a
is a
lot.
whole what?
It helps a lot to practice, though. Although it's difficult Spanish, right, for you.
Yeah, it's like the top, uh, like that's the hardest level of Spanish. That and Cuban or something is like, I went from when I traveled to South America. I started out okay, I got around and everything, and as the time went, I worked my way down from. I started in Dominican Republic, and then Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, and then Argentina, and then back to Dominican Republic. And as I went down in South America, my level started to increase
Get
a lot.
mhm.
And then I got back to Dominican Republic, and I felt like, fuck, I know nothing. I I
What do you
need
think
I
makes
need
it
a
so?
translator.
What do you think makes it so? Like, what is it about Dominican Republic accent that makes it so difficult?
Like it's they cut a lot of words,
Hmm.
so they don't speak the full length of the words, and
Right.
then they exchange like "vamos para la playa." What?
Oh man.
That's an easy thing, but then many times they exchange R for L,
Right. Ah,
desorden.
true.
But what?
Say that again. Sorry.
Desorden,
Desorden.
desorden. Celdo, no,
Oh my God.
cerdo. So and for me it became like it's so different from what I've learned, and um, how I try to speak, even though I have a, a heavy accent, or what do you say? So it was so different, and it is so different. So for me, that I don't understand. I
Right.
do like if I really put the effort, I do understand, but to people talking, it's too much for me. Hopefully, since that half of the family, my wife's, are from there, and some of them still living there, I will get used to it at some point.
Oh, you will.
But
You can see it even in your classes, man. Like, as you say, you didn't take the classes in a rush, so it took us a while to get to like just chat in Spanish. But there was a breakthrough. There was a moment where we're just like, oh, we're just speaking Spanish now. You know what I mean? That happened, and we were very happy about it. Remember, we're like, oh, we're doing
yeah,
it now. So
uh,
that's gonna happen
we
with your
didn't
wife.
even realize it, or I
No, we were
didn't.
just talking. We're just talking, and suddenly we're like, well, we've been talking Spanish all the time. It's like, oh yeah, that's true. Oh, that's awesome. So same's gonna happen with your wife, right? It's gonna be one day you're just gonna be like, oh, I understand most of what you say now, and then you're fine. I think that's it. You don't even have to get to 100% to be happy. You just gotta be like, if I'm 70% in, I can just make up the rest, and then from there on, learning is super fun.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so. I hope so. I spent a lot of time with her mother, who's only speaks Spanish, and so it, we're getting closer in the in
Of
the
course,
in the understanding. Like we
of
uh,
course,
we understand each other,
right? Cool.
but it's also like it gets it's hard for me to speak to her or to them, to
Interesting.
Dominicans, because when we speak, you speak Mexican and it's clear, Mexican Spanish, of course. I'm not
It's also,
that ignorant.
I mean, it's also clear because that's the one you know the most. But I see your point. You speak Mexican. You so
And
racist.
a
How
lot.
dare you, Andreas?
How do you say the food was good in Mexican?
You
Have you
just
seen that?
can't. What do you say? What?
Have you seen the video with how do you say the food was good in Mexican?
Oh no, I have not. You gotta send me that one, dude.
Oh,
You
it's
gotta
it's
send me that one.
gold.
It's
It's
like you just
gold.
got canceled during this podcast. It's like you speak Mexican, bam, canceled.
Yeah,
No, you gotta send me that
racist.
one. So basically, is what you want to tell me about it quickly about the you speak. How do you say this in Mexican?
Yeah, no, that was just. I will send you to it. It's a woman asking her boyfriend, how do you say the food was good in Mexican, and he's Mexican, and me duele el culo. Okay. She says it to the waiter. Oh, me duele el culo. And it's
Oh
like,
no, I've seen it.
what?
I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it.
Yeah.
But it's like in a restaurant. It's not like a grocery store. Like they're sitting down, right? And it's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
his girlfriend or something. True, true, true.
It's super fun. Super fun.
Seen it.
But what I wanted to say was like the Spanish you talk is so much clearer, or at least when we talk. Um, so it's easier to speak with
Right.
that. But with the Dominican Spanish, it gets since I guess it is because I need to think so or concentrate that much of what the other person is saying. I just lose uh, the mm, my I don't know, my chill
Right.
to be able
Right.
to talk like a conversation, and I have to think a lot more of what I'm going to say, and then it's just uh, blocked. My mind is blank after that.
Dude,
So
you
it's a
touch
challenge.
on so many cool points. I wish we had way more time, right? But it's like you touch on many things. First of all, I'm flattered of all the things you said in the beginning of your point because that was super sweet. Um, you talked about the first 15 minutes, right? Like at some point you said, "Oh man, you're 15 minutes stressed," and you're like, "Fuck, I got 45 minutes to go." It's so interesting because like as you know we have a lot of fun in class, like we actually laugh a lot and we're always like ha ha ha. So on my end I kind of have the same feeling backwards, but not in the sense that I got 45 minutes to go, but it's more like um, you want to do your best as a teacher, right? So you're like, I want to have my client entertained and I want to have them learning and engaged and whatever. So in my eyes, I'm always thinking he's not liking it enough. He's not learning enough, you know? So that's why also,
Yeah,
I'm a pushy teacher. Like I'm like, more, 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 you know, and I'm like, I'm going to up it another level and da, da, da. And my students are like, bro, take it down a notch, right? So, but the reason I do that is because I guess I'm insecure, right? I'm like, I want my student to know, to get their value, they're paying, right? And we're listening that you have the same experience a little bit from the other side. And I know students do because they're like, bro, I'm exhausted. It's super funny and it's good for people to hear if anybody hears this, right? It's like it's just part of the process to feel shit through the class for many
yeah,
classes, for many many classes, right? You're like, this fucking sucks. It's just what you do, you
yeah.
know.
It's the same as
And
going to the gym. Now I don't
yeah,
go to the gym as like, but it's not fun. Like even if you think it's fun, it's exhausting, and you
yeah,
just wish it to be over. Then you feel great.
exactly, exactly. And then you touch on another point, which is the fun part. Like, um, one of the reasons why I became a teacher, number one, is just it just kind of comes natural to me. I like it a lot, but it's also like I every type of work that I do, even as an entrepreneur, right? Even as a founder of a company with my employees or my coworkers, I try to have fun with them. So the meetings that we have, it's never like, "Hello, workers, we're gonna do this." We're just laughing our ass off for an hour and just talking about what we're
Yeah,
gonna do, right? You know what I mean? And we laugh a lot, you know, and we banter at each other. And I tell them how much I don't like them, and they tell me how bad of a boss I am, and we just laugh a lot, right? And the same is in my class. You know, the class I'm always like giving you shit and making you say stupid stuff, especially when there's like someone who speaks Spanish around you. You know, and but you're learning, right? And I think, sorry for that. You can have fun doing pretty much anything, including studying. I think studying is one of the places where you can have the most fun, and I encourage people to have that, I guess. And I love that you mentioned that because it's like you can have tons of fun studying, watching movies, listening to songs, making jokes, talking to friends. You know, instead of thinking like, "Oh, I gotta fucking study." If you go with that vibe, you're just not gonna learn stuff. You know, it's impossible. You
No,
don't want to do it.
exactly, exactly. And
And
like it was so fun realizing that that when you learn a language, like when you sent me um, sentences to start practicing, and it's funny sentences. So it's like it doesn't matter what the words in the study set doesn't have to be boring,
right,
right?
yeah,
Oh,
100%.
I go to the grocery store and buy tomatoes. Uh, the structure for that and doing something fun, or like a fun structure, or a sentence with funny words is the same.
Is the same.
You say it the same way. It's just fun.
Yeah, I say shit like I punch a baby or stuff like that, and it's like, of course I don't punch a baby, but when I say that, students go like, "Why do you say that?" You know, and then they remember the freaking sentence. You know, they're like, and they tell me
Yeah,
like, "I'm gonna remember that sentence." Like, of course you are. You know.
exactly, exactly. It's much more memorable, you say.
Yeah, 100%. And one other thing that you mentioned was when you say you lose your chill with the family of your wife, which is such an important point. How much about learning a language is a psychological game, you know? I remember there was a while there that you were speaking Spanish to me like very clearly, like just freaking chatting, and then I would talk to Patrick, our friend, and Milagro, his girlfriend. Sorry, Patrick, that I gave your names away. And um, uh, he would be like, he never talks to us. It's like he doesn't want to speak Spanish to us, you know. And I was like, he's doing great in class, and it's like we don't know that, you know.
Yeah,
You were just not ready at that time, you know. And when I talk to you in class, man, like yeah, there's mistakes and there's always cleaning to be made, but we can chat no problem in Spanish. And then when you tell me, oh, I go to my mother-in-law, I lose my cool, and as not only I don't understand, I cannot speak. It's like, isn't that the definition of learning? I would say anything almost in a nutshell, right? When you don't feel you're in control, it's you're off the rails, and then it teaches you how
yeah,
much not only you got to learn the language, it's like a self development process, right? You got to learn how to control yourself. You got to learn how to be okay with not knowing. You got to be okay with making mistakes. So it would, the more you work on that area, and I mean, in my class, we also work a lot on that, right? We work a lot on you as a person, because the more solid you are, you're going to be more likely to just go out there and destroy the language, which is what you got to do. You got to go out there and just fucking butcher it, you know?
exactly,
Cool
exactly.
stuff. Cool stuff, buddy. So we got to go in about 5 minutes. Is there anything else you would like to say before we close the podcast?
It's been super fun.
Nice.
Uh, it's the first podcast I'm attending to, and it has been it has been a pleasure. Thank you for having me. And I think that uh, it's a fun topic with the language, um, and there's so much to it in every aspect. Like you can combine so many things with
Right.
language, and it's opened
Right.
up a lot of doors.
Badass. Well, thank you back so much. You're one of my closest friends. I love you a lot. And to anybody listening, this is what I'm trying to show, right? Everybody that I've had so far. I mean, we've had 4 people so far, have very different personalities, right? Very different ideas to talk about. I mean, you and I went on the let's begin a business mode for the beginning, and then ended in this. And it shows to me every conversation we have how it's a lot about the work inside. You know what I mean? It's funny, but I'm just. Can you mute your computer for a second? It's very funny, but it's a lot of your work inside. So if you want to get better, I would say language, even entrepreneurship, as we were doing earlier, it's a lot about I need to work on my confidence. I need to work on my trust. I need to work on not being okay and being okay, not being okay, not being good. And I'm gonna repeat that message quite often, I think. And I thank you if you stayed this long and have a wonderful day. Let me stop the line.